This is an episode I've lost count. With who are you? What do you do?
Who am I? So, you want my legal name or my stage name?
It's whatever you're comfortable with.
Oh, I'm fine with both. So it's actually interesting. So, being of Hispanic heritage, we often have a lot more names than the average folk, right? Or at least it seems that way. So, my full name is Justin Dean Gonzalez Garza.
Okay.
Right? So, Justin came from my dad. My dad wore Justin boots, cowboy boots. So I'm named after a cowboy boot.
Neat.
Dean Gonzalez is actually my mom's oldest brother's name. He's rest in peace. He's passed away, but so Dean Gonzalez was my uncle's name, and then Garza, well, because that's my dad's last name. So I haven't quite added the senior onto my name yet. I don't know how that works because I have my youngest son is junior, right?
Mm-hmm.
But is that a requirement? I don't know. Like, so I'm not legally Justin Dean Gonzalez Garza Senior. I'm just you know.
I think you could probably make it happen if you really wanted to. I don't know what the rules are as far as that's concerned. Yeah. In a way, I kind of wish that my dad, because my dad had the suffix junior on his name. So I could have been the second or...
Are you named after your dad?
No.
Oh, then no. Yeah.
Well, I could. I mean, if I was named differently.
Yeah, well, so if you were named differently and you had his name, you would be the third.
Interesting.
And your nickname would be Trey. Yeah.
Well, but maybe next time.
Yeah, but I digress. No, the reason everybody's here, I'm just kidding, but the reason I'm here is my stage name is MEXIGUN. So I didn't intend for anybody to ever shorten it, but most people do shorten it to Mexi. And that goes back, way back. So my stage name is MEXIGUN. Didn't go by Mexi.
Good deal. I'm making sure this didn't fuck up. Hold on.
Okay, sure.
Okay, we're good.
We're good. Yeah, I could start that bit over if we.
No, it's not necessary. It's just some of these things are kind of run and gun.
Okay, but yeah, my stage name is MEXIGUN, and yeah, I mean, number one, it's always good to sit down and talk to you, Mike. I think we have the most intellectual and thoughtful conversations about life and things, but secondly, I'm definitely here to promote my I was going to say latest EP. It's not my latest. It's my only EP. Anything that after all these years of being involved in music, I've never actually put out something officially. Well, I finally have. So,
and it's a good listen. Its title is Perseverance. That's or right. Perseverance.
Yeah, so that's actually interesting that you brought that up, and I guess maybe to clear the air on that, my intention was for the album title to be called Perseverance. Uh-huh. So the album title is Perseverance, which roughly you could translate to because of the severance, and a severance is a split or a separation or whatever, severance. Perseverance, but the one of the songs, the third song on the EP is pronounced Perseverance. Right. And I had this epiphany, and I think we can talk about this, but I'm a guy, I write music first. I don't write lyrics. Lyrics is sometimes for me as an artist, almost sometimes it can be an inconvenience, right? Because it's like I have this song, it sounds really cool. It's like, oh, I gotta add lyrics to it, right? Because I don't like poetry. I've kind of said that before. I'm not a poet. I don't have like a poet book or anything. So anyway, I almost had an epiphany. I had all these songs. I kind of, had everything down. Didn't really have words for all of them. And I was reading through my phone one day and I saw the word perseverance, which if you know my story, I've had to persevere through a lot, especially post, 2015, per the Severance,
Word.
if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've always liked that word to persevere, and I saw perseverance, and I looked at it, and I was like, well, there's really two words in there. It's perseverance, and it's like they're almost oxymorons of each other, right? They're almost opposite, like perseverance, but perseverance. So, yeah, I was like, that's my album title, Perseverance. And then I wrote a song called Perseverance.
I dig it. I listened to it again before you came over, and I was just, you know how you notice more things about songs the
Yeah.
more you listen to them, and I don't know, man. What really stood out to me was Bruce's solo.
Yeah.
And I think it might be the first track.
Mm-hmm.
There's a part, the tempo and the rhythm, it kind of changes up throughout the song,
Mm-hmm.
but it's always like when it lands on that. That's always a good drive to like push forward. It just turns into a jam at that point.
Yes. So this is kind of a funny story. So that's very intentional. As a songwriter, I'm always so worried because it actually happened to me one time when I was in junior high. I thought I had wrote a little song, and it was no 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 no. And I went and played it for my buddy. Like, I mean, I've never really written a song. I mean, I'm 13 at the time. It's like, dude, check this out. Look, I wrote this little riff. It's a kind of like a B to an A kind of riff, right? And he's like, you didn't write that. And I was like, what do you mean? Yeah, I just came up with it. He's like, dude, listen to this. And he puts on Metallica's Fade to Black. And it's, except for one note, it's darn near the same. Da-na-na-na-na-na. It's the same thing. I was like, uh-oh. So, that being said, when I write music more recently, I always try to write like an odd time signatures. In that case, the part you're talking about is a 7 as opposed to a 4/4, which is pretty standard. It's a 7/4 time signature. So I did that on purpose, and I tend to write in odd time signatures because I'm so afraid that I'm going to accidentally write like the next major hit, and then I'm going to get sued for copyright infringement because of that story that happened to me in junior high, and that is a very true story.
Wow.
But what you're feeling there, and I'm going to get a little technical, what you're feeling there is the drum beat is a straight 2 or a straight 4, 2, 3, 4. So when you write in 7, 7 and 7 is 14. 14 is an even number, right? So when you write in, it's a 2/4 beat. So that means every 14th beat, they're going to sync back up because 14 can be divided by 2. So that's a very complicated way of saying that's what you're feeling when you say when it hits, it comes back to it. It's a math equation, and it's very intentional that I did it that way.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You see, that's another good thing about having people like you. We're friends. We get along well.
Yeah.
We do music well together. But also, you have the technical understanding of why things work. I have none of that.
Yeah.
So I write a bunch of shit, but it's nice to have somebody telling me, oh, hey, that note right there train wrecks everything you're doing. And I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. I appreciate it. But it's, I've always admired the knowledge of technical music skills.
Yeah, for sure. And the one thing that is great about our relationship is I am, maybe not 10, 15 years ago, right? But at least at this point, I'm very comfortable coming up to you and saying, hey, Mike, you did a modal shift there from a minor to a major, which will make the B flat a B. And I know you don't really know what I'm saying, but I'm like, so yes, change that one note just a half step from the minor third to the major third, and then you did it. Like, this is a true story because we actually, I don't know if I can say anything about it, but
It's all good.
yeah, we collaborated recently, and that did happen. And when we made that change, oh gosh, it made all the difference in the world. And so the good thing is I am comfortable, talking to you about those kind of things.
Uh, I don't think I probably on some level knew that there was something wrong with it, but like in my mind, I'm just like, yeah, that note right there, that's an R. It's supposed to be an R or a U, and it sounds good. It's what it's supposed to be. But then you correct it. It's like, oh, okay, now it actually feels more cohesive. It's like a
Yeah.
whatever you said.
The cool thing about songwriters, though, I mean, I know there's a YouTuber named Rick Beato. He's got a great channel. He talks about what makes songs great, and he goes through all the greats. Everybody from that I listen to, Nirvana to, I mean, just Pearl Jam. Name any band, rock band, and he talks about the music theory behind what makes this song great. And he's like, did Kurt Cobain know he was playing, an A sus4 when he wrote this, or did he know he was singing the nine? No, they don't know that. But what you have is what all talented music writers or artists have is you feel it. This note sounds right. But what you're doing is your brain is interpreting the music theory without you realizing you're doing it because you're good at what you do. So, yeah, that's what you're feeling. You and I have been working musically together since I don't think I was involved with the Postmortem Spaceman EP or album, was I?
Yeah, you did.
I did. I was. Yeah.
You wrote the solo for "They Live."
That's right. The very first Mike Terror album.
Yeah, we'll call it an album.
It was an album, right?
Sure,
It was more than 5 songs.
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't
Or what would
remember
you
now.
call it if you wouldn't call it an album?
An
An experiment?
Well, yeah, that's definitely the case. But I mean, a lot of people's first albums are experiments. It's just a collection, the first collection or body of work that formed an idea and put it out there. So yeah, it's a record, an album,
Yeah.
an EP,
Yeah.
a CD.
But, well, maybe we should start from the beginning. How did we meet? I mean, I think there's
Yeah.
probably some folks that would want to know that, huh?
Sure. We were both pretty entrenched in the whole Juggalo world
Yeah.
way back when.
Got the tattoos to prove it.
Yeah, and a lot of people were at that the autograph signing with Twisted on the Mirror tour.
Yeah.
At the Blockbuster Music over there on
Shepherd
Yeah.
and 59, right
Yep.
there in the
Yep.
in the Royal Oaks. Was it Royal Oaks? What's the name of it?
I
I can't
don't
think of
even
whatever area that is.
there was a Whataburger down the street.
Yep.
That's all I remember. But I don't really remember how the discussion began or how introductions were made, but we just kind of became cool in line.
Well, I remember. So we were there for I was living in Houston proper at the time, and I was going to college at U of H, so that would have been 2002. Yeah, 2002. And I remember going to meet Twisted, right? I mean, I was a huge hardcore juggalo back then, just super, super all about it. And I see this guy standing in line that just has this makeup on that is like the big smile, oh my gosh, this dude is intense. He is so I didn't know what to think. And I don't remember, we pretty much just went up to you and asked, man, how did you do that? Or that looks awesome, or something like that. And I remember you telling the story about you entered some contest or something with that makeup.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. They had InsaneClownPosse.com had a face painting contest, and I painted my shit up, and I took a picture. I sent it in to the email address, and I was like, I wonder if anything will come of it. Certainly I'm not like the best at this shit.
Yeah.
So, so I I log in, and on the news page, lo and behold, is my face staring right back at me. I'm like, oh shit, and they sent me a Blaze You Dead Homie autographed football jersey.
Wow.
As the prize. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
It was like 2 sizes too big, but I wasn't complaining.
Oh, it'll fit you now, though, huh?
Probably.
I'm just playing, man.
I sold it though.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I figured somebody buy it.
Did you get a good bank off of it?
I think.
Yeah.
I don't remember, but
yeah. So yeah, and then we went to eat Whataburger afterwards. It was like right across the street from that Blockbuster Music, and then I think we just wanted a place to chill before the show. So my apartment, was in the medical center at the time, and we all went back to my apartment. And I think Mike, gosh, how many years ago was that? What are we in 2024? So 22 years ago. Gosh,
wow.
Yeah, since 2002.
When the dinosaurs roamed the earth.
Yeah, so needless to say, I don't think Mike realized that was not going to be the last time you painted my face.
Yeah.
But Mike painted my face up. I had a friend of mine there from Wharton, and his name is Jared. Shout out to Jared. I think he's still pretty hardcore juggalo, like the only other juggalo from Wharton. But anyway, yeah, we got painted up. We chilled out. I remember we were listening to Blaze You Dead Homie, because I don't think I had that record, that CD at the time. We were listening to that. One Less G in the Hood.
No.
And then we went to the show. Oh, I left out the part about the pictures, because that's how our relationship kind of continued. Was, again, we're dinosaurs, so we didn't have camera phones back then. We had the old disposable cameras. And then when we met Twisted, you either didn't have a camera or something, I don't remember. So we stood in line, and you're like, hey, can you take my picture and mail it to me, right? Well, what is the postal service?
Yeah.
And so I took the picture, you wrote down your name and address, and you gave it to me. And then instead of mailing it to you, I was like, well, hey, I'm going to be passing by, and came over and handed you the photos. And then we kind of stayed in touch after that. But that was way before any musical creativity. Yeah. I mean, that was in 2002. I would say our music paths didn't cross until maybe 2009.
Yeah. I sort of remember seeing you here and there over the years, like at different shows and stuff.
Yeah.
And then HoustonJuggalos.com came along.
Yeah.
We got affiliated with that, and then I think you contacted them about doing a hotline.
That's right. Yeah, I was doing, because back then, before podcasts were a thing, or obviously there was no YouTube, and it was a tactic that I picked up from the wrestling community. Believe it or not, was wrestling used to have wrestling hotlines where you would call in and listen to the latest dirt, or whatever you will, about what's going on for real in wrestling, not what's going on in the ring, but in like behind the scenes. And so I had an extra cell phone at the time, and I set it up like a hotline where I recorded. What I did was this is so old school. I recorded my voicemail, like, instead of saying, hi, you've reached Justin, leave your message after the beep. I think I had like 3.5 minutes worth of that I could record. So I would record whatever news was happening with HoustonJuggalos.com, or even Psychopathic Records. And so I contacted HJ, and I'm like, hey, I'd like to do the hotline. And I think I became known as the Hotline Ninja.
Oh, yeah.
And so whatever news was happening, whether we were putting on mini gatherings or whatever, and I gave y'all the cell phone number, so when people would call the cell phone number, it would go straight to voicemail. But the voicemail message wasn't, hey, leave your name after the beep. It was, hey, what's up, Houston Juggalos? I guess we might get into it, but I'm doing announcing now for sports, right? But that was kind of maybe I just had an epiphany. Maybe that was the beginning of my announcer voice guy, right? Hey, what's up, Houston Juggalos? Thanks for calling in. This is what's going on. Kind of like that radio DJ announcer type voice. But yeah, that was that was how I started getting involved in HJ, and then I kind of took on like I guess in 2004 is when I finished college and got like a real job. Which I've been with that company, gosh, 20 years. This is 2024, which great company to work for, but won't get into that. But anyway, I got a real job and I was making real money,
Yeah.
and so I kind of, utilized some of my extra resources at the time, if you will, to try to produce shows. Like, hey, if we needed, like, I'll never forget that time, me, you, Cyrus, I don't even remember who else was there. We needed some lights and equipment at Guitar Center or somewhere. Party City, I can't remember, and that was my job as a producer was to, support that project in whichever way I can. And
That's right. That's how we built out our whole. Because we didn't want to put on a boring ass show. We wanted to at least have some lights that we could control and stuff like that. And you sort of fronted that, and with the revenue from the show, put the money right back in your pocket.
Yeah.
I don't think we ever turned a profit.
No, and definitely for me, it was never about, at least for me, and I've been blessed, I've been fortunate that for 20 years I've had a real job. You know what I mean? So I really, and even to bring that back to music, I was never looking for me to get that number one hit or I was content with the job that I had. So, but in a way that kind of opened up my freedom for Houston Juggalos or for music creation is that I could do it for fun. I wasn't doing it like, oh, I got to make this number one hit or I'm going to be on the streets or like, oh, I got to get my money back from whatever I put in for HJ because it wasn't about that. It was a hobby. I had a buddy of mine, shout out to Roel, who actually gave me my first professional gig when I was 15 years old. But he told me a long time ago, he said, because he's a musician and he has put in a lot of his personal money into his equipment and stuff. And he told me, he's like, some people have deer leases, some people have, whatever hobby they have, cars or boats or whatever. He's like, my hobby is music. That's where I'm spending my money at. And so for me, my hobby was music, but it was also kind of getting together and putting on amazing shows with Houston Juggalos. So it was never about, oh, I'm going to put this money in and become famous or it was like, hey, I love this. What can I do to help? What can I do to assist here? So
Passion project.
Passion project. Yep.
That's sort of how I've always looked at music, but I never, like you said, the seeking of money or fame is not a driver. I've definitely met people in the music
There are people.
biz that are like they're like, I want popularity, I want a tour bus, I want girls, and I want a number one hit. I'm like, okay, I mean if that's what drives you, that's fine. But there was no art there.
No.
So
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I think it should still be art.
For sure. So I have one for you. The 2009, to kind of maybe go into the Mike Terror phase of I want to say this was after the guitar solo for They Live. I was going through some personal issues at the time. I remember this is 2009 and I was just looking to hang out. So I'm like, Mike, you want to hang out? And you're like, sure. And so we hung out at the Buffalo Wild Wings there in Rosenberg.
That's right.
And I remember you were telling me like that you were thinking about starting a band. I don't remember, and maybe you could tell me, had you already written and recorded the music at that point for the Postmortem Spaceman? This would have been summer 2009.
I think, yeah, it was because the first show that we ever played was
U of H, right?
U of H, and that was May 1st, 2009. So I think that
Okay,
conversation was about like expanding.
that's right. That's right. Yeah. So I remember you were talking to me about expanding because I'm trying to remember. So I didn't have a drum set at that time, but I think I was playing with the Tejano band. Um, I don't remember because I started out with them when I was 15. It was ironic. It's my first professionally paid gig. I was 15 years old myself playing at a quinceañera, which most people know what that is, but it's 15-year-old celebration. So I was like, that was kind of funny. But I started out with them playing guitar, and then I transitioned to drums, at some point later. But you were talking about expanding, and I was like, I mean, you have to understand. And I've told you this off camera, Mike. I was a fan of Mike Terror before I was in the band. I was like super all about the sound, your style, just everything. So I was a fan, and so I was like, is there an opportunity here? Like, man, maybe I could go play drums for this freaking awesome rock band. It was just, and we talked about it a little bit, and I swear, and I've got the picture to prove it. I believe the very next day, I went and bought my drums. I believe the same one I still have now.
Yeah.
The very next day, I went out and bought a drum set and set it up and started practicing, practice, and I just put the music on my headphones and try my best to interpret what was on track, because what was on track was some killer stuff as far as the electronica type drums. Um, but um, and next thing you know, it's like, hey, you want to come audition? I'm like, let's do it. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what led to. I remember our first show together was in Austin, and it was on not on Sixth Street. What is it? What's the one down? It's like 8th Street, 9th Street, but
Man, I don't know. All of those shows, I don't.
they all kind of blend together.
They really do.
Yeah. But anyway, I remember the first show we did. That was the one. I think we had like a maybe an 11:30 time slot, and we didn't end up playing until like what felt like 2:15 in the morning.
Oh God. Wait, were we outside?
No, not on that one. We were inside. We
Okay.
were indoors. There's video of it. And I remember it was a little rough, just because it was our first time. It was my first time, of course. I don't know if people know this, but a little behind the scenes, when you see me with headphones, I'm actually playing with a backtrack. I mean, I know you know that, but I'm just telling the audience that. So you talk about having to be precise and on it, in the pocket, as the musical phrase is. I mean, I was playing with a backtrack, so. Uh, but yeah, you got to be right on it. And so yeah, it was a little rough the first time, but honestly, of all the shows we played, beyond that one, I actually thought the rest, from my own personal critique of myself, was pretty good.
Yeah. When you stepped in as the drummer, the live drummer, the whole our whole situation leveled up. We became. I mean, I always considered it to be a legitimate musical act, but I feel like we really. That's when we started to really feel like a band.
Yeah.
And we were putting some air out there, and it sounded great. And then you brought your own flair with it too. You added things to the songs.
Hmm.
And felt that shit in your guts.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a secret, or if I say this, that people would understand. But Danny Carey from Tool, Tim Alexander from Primus. I mean, they're up there for me. Dave Grohl to a point, but Tim Alexander from Primus is probably one of my favorite drummers, because it's the little things. Like, it's the little accents, the little hits on the ride cymbal, where you hit it just here. And I went and bought a Zill bell, which I don't know if you remember that one, but that's that one. It's kind of like a bell upside down that I used in, I think it was Invasion. Um, during but I bought a splash cymbal, right? Which, you're thinking, oh, big, hard hitting rock band, industrial type metal music. Like, who's going to use a little bitty splash cymbal in that, right? But I mean, it's on the album, even your last album. There's you can hear the splash accents in there, and it added this layer to what was a very, I don't know, industrialized kind of very straightforward beat, but you hear those little splashes and those little accents in there. And yeah, I think it sounds pretty cool. It definitely rounded out that sound.
Yeah, that's what I like about that record so much. Is it actually has all your live elements in there.
Yeah.
And it just brought so much life to it, man.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that was the genesis of our music relationship. Was back in 2009. The Buffalo Wild Wings there in Roseburg. That's how that all started. And
We reenact that from time to time.
Yeah.
Buffalo Wild Wings, Mexican restaurants.
Yeah.
Crawfish at Mexican restaurants.
Yes.
It's
Remember when right after rehearsal, I think it was before our first Holy Water Enema show, which maybe I'm jumping the gun here. We kind of try to keep a timeline a little bit, but we went to that Mexican restaurant, hole in the wall over there, and I think my daughter was with me, right?
Yeah.
And me, you, and Chris, and we were all still painted up in our stuff, and boy, when we walked in, that was the stares were pretty funny.
Yeah, you got to do that once in a while. It's just living.
Yeah. So, I guess I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about I guess there was a hiatus there. I think 2013 is, because I know you've had Britt on your podcast.
That's right.
And that was a great podcast, though, by the way. That was insane. I guess this is the point where I'll say this podcast is probably going to be the most PG one out of all of them. A lot of friends that Mike and I have are like super out there. I'm a little bit more grounded.
That's okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine.
It's a different vibe with everyone, I've noticed so far.
Yeah.
Because, like, your relationship from person to person is going to be different.
Yeah.
And it's even, especially like somebody you don't know that well, that you've never had a full conversation with, and suddenly you're like having a conversation with them on camera.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, I don't know, man. It's been a cool experience so far.
Yeah, no, I've definitely enjoyed all of them, but anyway, no, that was a good one with Britt. But some folks that are watching might be confused. Like, wait a minute, I thought Britt was the drummer for Mike Terror, which he was. So in 2013, and I remember there wasn't just one. There's usually never one factor, right? There's never. It's always a culmination of things. One of them was back then I was still working shift work, and I can't tell you how many times I felt so terrible when you or somebody with the band would call me up and say, "Hey, we have this show on this weekend. Can you make it?" And I'm looking at my work schedule where I was working a lot of weekends because of the shift work, and like, nope, can't make that one. We're like, hey, we're having rehearsal. Nope, can't make that one. And so, and I even wrote this on Facebook back at the time. It's like, some people wonder, like, I've always wondered, like, how did Chad Channing, the original Nirvana drummer, like, how did Chad Channing leave Nirvana? Like, why, Tim Alexander, I was talking about him earlier. How in the world would Tim Alexander ever leave Primus? I mean, he is Primus. How would the guitarist from Static X, how did he leave the band? How does that happen? But it sometimes just happens. And it was me. I was like, I look back, like, how did you ever leave Mike Terror? It's like, well, it just circumstances. There was no animosity. I appreciated the last live show I ever did at Acadia, I believe it was.
That was memorable.
That's where I did the Jesus pose, which
Oh
there's
yeah.
a, that I don't know. I'm like blessing my drum set or something, like totally not intentional. Somebody just happened to snap. I don't know if I was saying like what's going on, but I'm like this, like I'm at the Last Supper. But yeah, so yeah, I exited the band and just sometimes it happens like that. And there was no ill will, or at least it wasn't on my part, and I didn't feel there was any from the band's part either. But sometimes those things happen, and
Yeah, I mean, life's circumstances continue to change, and sometimes something just isn't a good fit for that phase of your life.
yeah,
And that shit happens to me too, but it just looks like a pause in activity.
yeah,
See, I don't technically leave my own music. I just can't do it all the time.
yeah,
I can't.
yeah, because you got a lot of different hats within your own plethora of musical projects.
Yeah,
That's not even a band; it's like your own individual.
it's hard enough to do one of these shows a month.
Yeah.
Not to mention recording shit. Even though I'm pretty much done with like 2 records, just mastering, mixing, and all that bullshit.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know, man. When it's your passion, you find time eventually. Like if you're
True.
not suffering from crippling depression or anything like that, you
Yeah.
can make a lot of progress.
Yeah, you can. And ultimately that's what I ended up doing with this EP that I released was that I made time, and I guess we'll get to that when we get there. But I guess to kind of, well, how did we kind of reconnect? I don't think after I left the band, I don't think we ever like disconnected. I mean, we were still cool. I supported Britt. I supported you guys.
Didn't you come to one of our shows
I think I did.
with Britt? I don't know.
So I remember. So that was in 2013. I think the next time we got together, and I remember the year for certain, was 2017 at the album release party.
Yeah.
Because that's how you talk about trials and tribulations. That's how long it took you. And I'm not saying through any fault of your own, but just through circumstances. Is that I had already recorded all of the drum tracks prior to me leaving in 2013, and the album didn't release. That was 2017, right? I mean,
Yeah.
am I right with that timeline? It doesn't sound right, but
I still have. I remember.
maybe it was 2014. But still, there was a long period.
I remember in particular. I was confident. I was certain that I was going to release that record in 2012.
Yeah. Okay. So right. So maybe my time is right.
Um,
So to celebrate the album release party, you guys invited me like, hey, you want to come play one of the songs? And I was like, sure. I mean, I had already, so much had passed. No secret. I went through a divorce in I guess really 2015, but it was official January 2016, and I was already. I went through that, and then kind of already moved on. I was in a new relationship 2017, and I asked of course my fiance at the time, but I asked her, I'm like, hey, this is kind of what I used to do. Like I used to do all this makeup, and my wife, bless her heart, I'm going to talk about her probably so much later. She's been such a freaking savior for me in so many ways. But she's from a small town like me, right? Like she was the whole juggalo thing, all of that is like just was super foreign to her. So I'm like, I need to get these contact lenses. I'm gonna put this makeup on. I'm gonna be in this club in Houston, and she was so supportive. Like she could have easily been like, oh, well, who are these people or whatever, but she wasn't, and she ended up going to that show, and just it was so funny because everybody from, I mean, I don't want to start naming names, I'll forget, but I remember Ash was there. There was so many people that were going up to her, and like I was introducing like, hey, um, this is my fiance or whatever. And they would look at me, they would look at her and say like, "What are you doing with him?" like, like
So
wait a
often the
minute, like
case.
I definitely overachieved with her, so that was funny. But anyway, yeah,
High five.
Yeah. But yeah, so we went to that show in 2017, and that was, I think that was kind of the genesis, I would say, of kind of our next project. Well, let me back up a little bit. So we did the 2017 reunion show. It was freaking amazing. I was going through a lot of issues that during that time, still lingering from the Severance. I see what I did there.
Mm-hmm.
And that night, I felt like a great. It was a dream, but in a good way. It was all of my problems were out the window. Everything I was dealing with was out the window. That was probably like just some blissfulness to be on stage with you guys that night in 2017. That was cool. And then fast forward a few years, 2020 rolls around, right? And it's
That's
the
right.
10-year reunion, or I guess it was 2019 is when we started because it was pre-COVID.
Yeah.
And we were going to do a reunion show for Mike Terror with like the original lineup. That was the plan. And except I was going to be on bass, right?
Right. It was sort of it was like a reunion in some ways, but I think in my mind it was just like the anniversary because for me it never stops.
Got you.
But like
Makes sense.
yeah, and as far as like people and their involvement, it was a lot like a reunion.
Yeah.
And it was cool to see you on bass.
Yes.
You know, you have your own style with that too.
Yeah, I tried. So I wanted to be, shout out to Josh, and I guess, was Eric on bass at one point too?
It was the original bassist, yeah.
But when I was during what, and maybe I'm being selfish here, but when I was in the band, what I would call when we were getting it right as a band.
Mhm.
I mean the amount of talent. Shout out to all the band members, man. The amount of talent. Alan, Josh, myself. I know Larry helped out too. Larry Phoenix,
Yeah.
but the amount of talent, and I think I talked to Larry or maybe it was even Alan about this not too long ago. You don't realize what you have when you're in the middle of it. But now that I've kind of, I'm a little older and I look back and I was like, man, there was a lot of freaking musical talent in one place. I mean, just you don't find that. Even now, I could get together and there was a lot of talent in that band. And
I always thought it was neat that, I mean, everybody had their own interest in the kind of music that they like to play for themselves. Like
right,
Josh could lay waste to anything that sounded like it was in the neighborhood of Primus
for sure,
or Les Claypool.
absolutely.
Alan can play anything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
classical.
like really fucking beautiful, soft melodies and stuff like
Yeah.
that. He's just, but here I am with these very rudimentary, kind of like simple things that I write, and I'm like, but it jams, right? We're gonna have it's fun.
Yeah.
It's not a challenge for these people to play this stuff,
Right.
but they had a good time and they contributed willingly. So I always felt very lucky.
Yeah.
And you're I always thought this was great. Anytime we go out playing somewhere, I remember we were in Corpus Christi.
Mhm.
You're doing your sound check,
Yes.
and you start playing some Tejano shit. And people in the
Absolutely.
crowd were like, "Fuck yeah!"
Hell yeah! There was a so again, like I said earlier, I started out in a Tejano band, and being a live drummer, I was kind of used to sound checks. I mean, I had been doing it forever. Tejano music, and rock music. I mean, besides obviously being different, the production, or I guess the paradigm around the production, is so different. With a Tejano band, you're playing usually private events, weddings, quinceañeras. So, whatever events, arenas, it's so different. The process, you show up to the venue at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon is what I was used to. Roel, like I said earlier, he had invested a lot in his own equipment. So he had a freaking box truck with all the power amps, all the speakers, the mids, the lights, like everything. And we would all unload, set up the stage, and we'd do a sound check at like, 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, then go get some Whataburger and chill until it was time to go on stage where everything was set and done. So I had been doing sound checks for the longest time. The rock industry is super different. You're lucky if you're the headliner. You might get a sound check if you show up early enough, and then you have to take, well, not all the time, but most of the time you take all your stuff off the stage because there's like 3 other bands that are playing before you. You can't have 4 drum sets on stage, right?
Irritating.
Yeah. So let's pretend that didn't happen. So we're not the headliners. You show up, I have to unload and set up all my drums kind of off to the side. And then when it's your time to go, you have like 5 minutes between sets. So I would get all my friends or whoever, I think my oldest son, Sabin, sometimes would help me out. Well, you have to run and put all your drums together. You got 5 minutes. The sound man's hooking up all the mics, and then mic check. He's talking to you on the monitors. All right, snare. So I'd hit the snare. But because I had been doing it with the Tejano band for so long, it was just natural. Once I got done, they usually say, all right, now full kit. So to do a full kit, which again I was used to with the Tejano band, I busted out into the Squeeze Box Band by Jay Pettis. It was just, accordion, like, a song. And, and so I'd bust into a polka. But it accomplished the task because with that particular song, the Conjunto Sao Polka, you hit all the drums, you hit all your cymbals, like you do all your fills, and so it accomplished what the sound man needed because I knew that when I was in the Tejano band, that's what Roel needed to hear when I was doing sound checks. So anyway, that's kind of the long story behind me busting out into a Tejano song for Mike Terror sound checks.
It's good, man. I think it caught the attention of the ears of people that might not have paid attention otherwise, and I don't know, it's entertaining for me.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess to get back on track, well, I'm calling it a reunion, but you're calling it what, a continuation? What did you call it?
A anniversary.
Anniversary. It never happened.
Right.
Because COVID happened.
Mm-hmm.
And all the venues shut down. I mean, it just could not have been the worst timing. It's so funny, Mike, like you have this power to make me go buy instruments because after you told me, hey, you want to play bass? I went out, I bought me a bass. I bought me a Schecter 5-string bass because I knew that a lot of your songs were played in C. And so instead of tuning my 4-string down to drop C, I was able to hit my notes on the B string for the music nerds out there. But I bought me a 5-string Schecter bass. It's beautiful because I was going to play bass. Mm-hmm. And to kind of finish what I was talking about earlier is that I wanted to differentiate my sound from Josh, just to experiment something a little different. Josh used a very thick, heavy pick when he played, and it produced a great sound. But I wanted to try something different. So because, Cliff Burton, from Metallica, he used his fingers when he played bass. A lot of people don't know that because a lot of people think of Jason Newsted. Newsted used a pick when he was with Metallica. I was like, man, what would Mike Terror sound like with a bass that's played with your fingers instead of a pick? So that was kind of the sound that I went to, and it just added almost like because a pick can be real bright, right? But the fingers are muddy. They're a little bit. They just add a different tone to it.
I think it gave it warmth.
There you go. It's a warm sound when you play like that. So.
And yeah, nobody got to hear that.
Nobody got to hear it.
Oh, well.
Nobody got to hear it. But, yeah, maybe one day. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know, man. The course of, or the direction of my music is sort of changing. I'm like, the less band members on stage, the less cats I have to herd,
Yeah.
maybe perhaps the better. Not that I don't appreciate all of the experiences that I had with a full band and everything. It's just the inspiration has gone in a different direction. So
Yeah. I'd like to think I was a pretty good cat.
yeah, man.
I'd like to think I was. I mean, I, yeah, this is going to sound stupid, but I used to not like drink. Like, and that's something that I mean alcohol, not
Right.
water, but no drugs, no alcohol. I was always pretty straight edge, but like I'm the drummer. Like
Mhm.
I gotta be on point. I mean, I made the point earlier. I've got to be. It's a backtrack. The backtrack's not gonna move. It's gonna stay in tempo. I have to be on point. So I'd be lucky if I had one beer, but usually I would stay stone sober until we actually went on stage, and then maybe Josh or somebody would hand me a beer. But not even that. If you look, I've got like 3 water bottles besides my drum set. Like when I played live, it was just a conscious decision I made that, I've seen some people get a little, you know, inebriated, messed up, drunk. Not saying you, but
Oh, there's evidence.
there is evidence. But I've seen it, especially, and I'm like, and they go up there and they think that, man, they sound great, right? And me, I'm like, oh no, that dude he's obviously inebriated. So that was just, to each their own. But for me, I'd like to think that I was a good cat to herd because it was a conscious choice to stay sober when I played live.
I always knew where you were.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
but anybody else was, and maybe I had to stay on point too because, I was on point, not necessarily not inebriated some of those times, but like I had to at least be on time and know what was going on. So like
Yeah.
I could never let myself cut loose completely until we were done and the equipment was loaded up.
Yeah.
And then all bets were off.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But, so anyway, I guess you want to talk about holy water enema because I think that's the kind of the natural progression of our story here that I guess we're trying to tell is that we tried to do the Mike Terror show anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
COVID happened, shut everything down for a couple of years. I don't think I was doing anything either musically, and gosh, I don't even know. You tell me. How did I get involved with holy water enema?
I found myself in a position where I needed a drummer, and of course, I know you to be a completely capable and talented, committed musician. Mm-hmm. So I was like, you know what? Just on an off chance, I feel like maybe he would appreciate if I at least opened the possibility to him. Threw it your way. If it wasn't right for you in your life, no harm, no foul, whatever. I just wanted to make sure that I asked. Mm-hmm. And I think I was a little bit surprised when you said yes.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, oh, well, all right then. Sounds like we're gonna have a good drummer, after all. So, fucking A.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember because, and maybe you've experienced this too, but it seems like post-COVID or 2020 to now has almost been like a blur.
It
Like,
really, really has.
it's like up until that point, like, okay, I mean, we've been talking about all these dates. I'm remembering dates, I'm remembering years. And then 2020 happens, and it just seems like a big bowl of mashed potatoes or something. Like it's just been all
reality reset. Or
yeah,
some shit.
Yeah. There was a glitch in the matrix there or something. But yeah. So for me, I had kind of been the last time I really played on stage, and I think I did a couple of Tejano shows, one-offs. There in that year between 2013 when I left Mike Terror and before I joined Holy Water Enema. But the timing just was right. It had been almost 10 years since I missed the stage. That's probably one thing that I miss the most is just being on stage and just playing. Like it's never. But we talked about this earlier. It was never about the money or anything like that. I mean, the Mike Terror days. We would rent a U-Haul. We'd put our own gas. We drove our own vehicle. We put my. It was a hobby. It wasn't about getting paid. But anyway, the timing is right. I switched from an hourly shift working weekends job, and to working a salary job. Where I was off every weekend, and I did that switch in 2015. So I was available. And that was probably the number one thing. It's like I'm available every weekend, so we can do shows. I wouldn't have to. You wouldn't have to call me, and I'd go, well, I can't take off that weekend. Like I was available, so that was probably it. But talk about stepping outside of your comfort zone. I think if people have listened to this show this long, I think they know I play the straight man in kind of like a comedy duo. I'm very, I'm very I mean, I like to have fun and do all that, but being in a band named Holy Water Enema with you and Chris was something that I don't think anybody would look at me and say, and maybe some might, but say, "Wow, Justin's going to do that."
Yeah, no,
you know?
I think that's another reason why it kind of surprised me a little
Yeah.
bit, because, and you know what, this is semi-related.
Yeah.
I learned recently that we are almost unbookable for a lot of people, a lot of promoters, because the name of that project is overtly offensive.
Yeah.
You can have, death metal bands with the worst names you can think of, but you can't even read that shit.
Yeah, you can't even read it. It's
Right. So
yeah. So like, I will book them.
they're like, "Do you have something else?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I have a logo that has the acronym or whatever."
HWE.
Yeah.
And to be honest, most of the time when I kind of self promote the group, I use HWE.
Right.
Here's the funny thing though. It's like, I don't know, TNA wrestling was a deal back in the day. And
What's that stand for?
well, total nonstop action.
Oh, it's not tits and ass.
Well, so that's the point, right?
Ah.
Is that it was at first it was like a ha ha, that's a joke kind of thing. But then, as the company, which it's still around, believe it or not, people say, "Yeah, TNA wrestling," and it lost that I don't know if you want to call it shock value, but in a good way. So for me, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of struggled at first with the name Holy Water Enema. Like it just was something I wasn't even like, "Oh, I'm in this band. We're called HWE." Well, what's that stand for? Well, I'm not really sure. It's just
Yeah.
So, but now.
Sounds like a wrestling organization.
Yeah. And so now I'm super comfortable because being in this band and playing this music and being on stage, like, it's not about the name. It's just, I love playing music, and I love supporting your projects, which, I've been doing for a long time, as we've talked about. So, I could see where some folks might get offended at it, but I guess once you look beyond the name and you see like the heart and the talent and the effort and the stuff that we put in and you put in, because you wrote all the music. I think I don't know if I've helped out on a few, but anyway.
Okay. To reference that in a little external bubble here.
Yeah.
You have contributed some writing and some adjustments to things.
Mm-hmm.
There's a new Mike Terror single that's coming soon. Yeah. It's called Worn Leather.
Yes.
And you did all of the guitar work on it.
Yes.
I passed it over to you. I said, "Hey, if you hear guitar on this, just let me know if you feel like recording it. We'll see what happens." And then you gave it back to me, and it was some beautiful shit.
Yeah.
So that's coming soon.
Yeah, that is coming soon. I'm excited for that one. But yeah, so I guess to kind of Holy Water Enema, we're still a band.
Yeah.
We, I guess maybe hopefully somebody will book us, maybe not. But we don't. We have a show coming up. Yeah, we should promote that. Can we promote that yet? Not yet.
I don't I don't know if it's been announced,
Oh, we'll wait.
but
Stay tuned.
I guess we better rehearse. Huh? Better get back to that
Yeah,
studio.
yeah. You're gonna have to end this podcasting business and get back into the no. But no, it's just fun. It's fun to be on stage. It's fun to play. It's just fun. It's fun for me to put the contact lenses in and put the makeup on because I think people just that know me know like they just it's almost a shock value. I think they're like, oh my gosh, that's you. Like, yeah, that's me. And but I do it. You know, I've always supported your visions. I've told you that. I've always supported your projects. Anything that I could do musically or just we're comfortable enough to where we can be open with each other to say, Mike, this is working, or hey, you know, you might want to change this right here, and I think it'll work out better for you. And I think you trust me enough at this point to where when I do make those suggestions, it's like, okay, you know.
I think I've also loosened up quite a bit because,
Yeah.
like in the beginning, I'm still somewhat of a perfectionist. I'm not going to turn out something I'm not comfortable with, but um, I enjoy more now loosening the reins and letting influence in. You know, and that's I encourage like 8 Ball or Scabs writes his own verses and lyrics and stuff like that. I generally write everything else, you know. And oh, you did the guitar work on another, didn't you? Is it more
Yes,
than?
for oh gosh.
It's the next
It's the
Holy Water
acronym
Enema.
one. It's the I like to
Oh, that changed.
oh
Now it's just I do what I want.
I do what I want.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the name of the next Holy Water Enema single.
Oh, there you go. You heard it here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you heard it here. Yeah, I do what I want. That was yeah. So that was another one. I knew there was one in there somewhere that I was forgetting about, but that was fun. That was very Primus inspired. I remember writing that one. Here's a Easter egg for you. I recorded that guitar on Alan's old guitar that I got from him years ago, and I want to say that was the guitar that he used on the original Mike Terror Postmortem Spaceman CD.
If
Is it white? Do you remember?
that's
Or maybe it was what he toured with.
the
But
the one that he recorded the original tracks with is actually downstairs.
okay, so it's not that one.
It's red. I think it's Ibanez.
Yes. Okay,
Maybe.
so no, this is a white guitar. So maybe it was one of the ones he was touring with. But
He never wanted to play that one. I think he might have used it live a few times, but he always told me, he's like, you don't understand. It has a different tone. You can't play Mike Terror music with this guitar. It's a Fender. I'm like,
yeah.
I don't know. Okay.
Well, now that makes sense because you know single humbucker Fender Squires is probably not the crunch you're going to need for a. I could understand that you're going to need a double humbucker or a humbucker. Or something like that.
It sounded good to me on the track, but maybe the music's not the same.
Yeah, but anyway, so a little Easter egg. That was Alan's guitar that I used to record the guitar for I Do What I Want, and
Nice.
that was fun. And you know, we've actually done stuff that hasn't even been released. You know, I don't want to announce it, but there was a Halloween themed thing that we worked on. It was something to do with some monster.
Oh yeah.
So I won't.
Hell yeah.
Won't give that away. But I keep every time Halloween rolls around, I'm like, maybe this year Mike will release it.
There is a collection of Mike Terror songs. I still need to record vocals for a lot of them, but it's just a nice, good handful of tracks. It'll make a good EP, and even though that project doesn't really perform live or hasn't in a long time, not since when?
2017 was the last time I was with you guys. That was for the album release party, and I don't know if you ever did maybe a few shows after that.
I think we did a Halloween show after that, and then it was kind of weird. It's weird to think about in retrospect. It's like, well, maybe it's just a good time to to do other things.
Yeah.
Even though you work all this time on a record and you finally release it and then you only play 2 shows after that.
Yeah.
But it's
I mean, I wasn't there in the, I don't know. I was in the band, but I wasn't really sure what was going on behind the scenes between 2012 and 2017. Like, I don't want to make any assumptions. Maybe there was some folks that were maybe some outside influences from a production standpoint or something. Like, I don't know. I don't know what happened, but there was definitely some delays there.
there was a lot.
Yeah.
Not. I mean, in my personal life, complete and total destruction of all, you know, structure and things.
Hmm.
And it's hard to work on art when you're not even really functioning as a person.
Yeah.
So
I can see that.
uh,
But I think it just was a timing thing. I mean, I mean, Mike Terra as a band to me was hot. I would say in 2012 was probably, at least when I was in the band, was when it was like we could show up to a town, we could set up our stuff, we could rock a stage for 45 minutes an hour, tear down, and we were just song to song to song to song was just on freaking point. Like we were in such a groove. But
we had choreographed stage dancers
stage dancers
that also served as outfit changers. So like they had a whole process for how they would like strip my outfit off, and then okay, shout out to
Dina Bina. Hey Dina Bina.
And Erica. And we've had a few other stand-ins, but yeah, those are definitely.
I mean, they were part of that core. I mean that.
Oh yeah,
that
Dina
when
was
we
like a band member without playing an instrument.
Yeah.
She was just as, if not more, committed than anybody else to the project. So
that choreographer, just therapist sometimes. Somebody that's really easy to talk to. You could talk to Dina like.
For sure.
I mean, just like a sister. It was like a family, It was, yeah, for sure. But, well,
wow.
I'll let you reminisce for a second. You look like you're in thought. How long have we been going?
An hour.
Okay. I guess you want to maybe move on to little self-promotion for me?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Talk about your project. Talk about anything you want to
for sure.
speak on.
So I've been releasing songs, I guess, probably since 2000 and, I don't know, 2010, 2011 maybe. I mean, I think I released one before that, but I basically bought, like, Amazon shipped like 20 boxes to my house when I used to live in Katy. I bought all my studio. I went on a binge. It was one of those impulse kind of buys. I bought a freaking studio from Amazon. I mean, I'm talking everything from the input-output devices to the studio monitors, the mics, like everything, the drum mics. Like I bought a whole studio and Amazon delivered it to my front door. Right?
Nice.
And so I've been recording songs here and there. I always write the music first. I think I mentioned that earlier. And I would write some songs. At first I was just releasing some instrumental stuff, very Buckethead kind of inspired stuff. There's actually a song with my son Bruce, I think it's called Dada, where he was sitting on my lap and I had
remember that.
Yeah. It's still out there on my Reverb Nation page if you want to go to reverbnation.com/MEXIGUN and see a lot of my terrible music. Before I kind of, you can see the progression. Each song kind of gets a little better, but yeah, he was on my lap, and he would always, I would say Bruce, and he would say Dada, and so I recorded him doing that, and then I chopped it and mixed it into like a song. So that's kind of funny.
And now he's playing monstrous solos on your shit.
That's right, yeah. So he's on a song on the EP called Wires, and
I'm gonna have to get him on one of my songs eventually.
Oh, dude, he's ready to, like, if you had a project for him, like, even a live project, he knows every single Mike Terror song ever made.
That's
He probably knows
wild,
some
man.
Holy Water Enema stuff. Like whether it's drums or guitar, I guarantee you he knows it. Bruce has been a Mike Terror fan since he was in diapers.
That's wild,
I
dude.
mean, he was what? I mean, when that was he was born in 2009, so it was 2010, 2011. He was literally in diapers, like watching us practice at the house. Like, but anyway, I digress. So there was four catalysts, I guess, for me to finally decide to do this EP. I didn't want to do a full length album because of time. I play everything. Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters was probably a big influence because he did that on his first album, the first self-titled Foo Fighters album. The whole album is him except for one song. He plays drums, guitar, bass guitar, he sings. So I knew I could do it, and that's what I had been doing in the past. But I think I say there's four catalysts. Number one, so shout out to my friend Aaron. What's up, Aaron? Aaron is from Western New York. I actually know him through a podcast that he's a part of that I've actually done music for. I do little 15 to 20 second uh, I don't know, like introduction, kind of like a game show type, 20-second hits. And that's a whole other long story of how we met. But anyway, he last year kind of made the decision, hey, I'm going to write a book. He wanted to write a book. And he did. And he published it, and I have a physical copy. It's called Thane. There, I'll give you some free publication, free publicity here. But it's called Thane, and I scored the trailer for. He had like a commercial for it, so I scored the music there. But he wrote a book. He put his mind to writing a book, and he wrote a freaking book. And so I was like, man, that's inspiring. If he can do it, I can do it. And then number two, I think uh, you had asked me, we talked about working on stuff together. I don't remember if it was which Holy Water Enema song it was, but you asked me to work on a song, and I basically forced me to put my studio together,
Hmm.
right? And so I had to get all my recording stuff together to record that. So that was kind of like a second one. And see, what was number three? So I knew I was going to do that. I was going to number these, and I was going to forget one of them, right? But yeah, but anyway, but definitely. Oh, how could I forget? Uh, Shout out to Chemo for Emo and Larry.
Yeah,
Right,
buddy.
that was number three, and um, I mean Larry has been putting music out for years, and he released an EP. Right, so I've got a friend of mine that is releasing a book, a freaking novel. Right, I've got Larry and Chemo for Emo putting a solid EP out there, and so kind of put that. Then you kind of forced me to put my studio together to record some stuff. Not forced, but you know what I mean. So I finally was like, oh, and then the fourth one being I had songs. I mean, I had something. I think I've told you this. I had something to write about finally. So all of those things put together, I'm like, I'm gonna do this. It's not gonna be just one song. I'm gonna have a concept. It's gonna be start to finish. I know the five songs, at least musically. I'm gonna put them together. I'm gonna record them. I'm gonna do this correctly. I'm gonna do this right. They're all gonna sound the same musically. They're all gonna be in the same key. It's not gonna be recorded at different times. And so those four things were the catalyst to me doing the CP.
Perfect storm.
Yeah.
It's good though, man. It makes me happy to see something that you've made that is fully your work, your ideas, your inspirations.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's late, but I'm glad it happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely. I mean, I started playing guitar when I was, 11, so it's been 30 years, right? So I've been 30 plus years since I've been playing music. Started out on piano. Did you know that? I don't know if I know that
You
story.
might have told me, but I didn't.
Yeah, it was actually funny. I was 4 years old, and my older sister was taking piano lessons there in town, and almost like as a unintentional consequence, like I went with her one time and kind of sat in a chair similar to this, and almost like as a joke, they're like, "Oh, Justin, you want to come up to the piano?" And it's like, "Oh, this is middle C." Well, okay, so that's C on the note. So whenever that note shows up on the music, I hit this note, right? And they're like, yeah. So it clicked pretty early
Huh.
on. But anyway, yeah, sorry, I digressed there. But yeah, so all those things came together, and I just decided to do it, and I did it, and I had stories to tell. My original intent was to make a positive and uplifting album. Uh, Turned out three of the four, no, three of the five ended up being that. Uh, One of them, Wires, which my son Bruce plays on, um, is a political but anti-politics song that I put in there.
Yeah, that's a good stance to have.
You know, it's left and right alike is one of the lyrics. But I kind of put that in there because I wrote the song, and I knew that I wanted to say, where did the wires go? But I remember telling my wife, like, what am I going to write this song about? Like, I know those are the words I want to use. And then I started thinking, like, conspiracy theory about, the wires back in the day. They used to come into our home from, like, the cable company, and then the media would feed us lies, and all this stuff. And now we're all drowning in our phones, right? Because of all the social media. And then I kind of hypothesized in the song in the future, we're going to have, like, digital crowns, which is a lyric I used in the song. But basically, you kind of have that now with the VR headsets. But the media we consume is going to be, like, literally jacked into our heads through some sort of computer chips to absorb it, get information. So
Yeah, good old Elon Musk is starting the journey.
Neuralink.
Yeah, me and Larry talked about that.
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah, I remember seeing that. So, and then I guess as far as the album title goes, it was almost an epiphany. I was on my phone, talking about consuming media. I was on my phone, and I see the word perseverance. I don't know what I was reading, and of course my brain it does this, right? Perseverance is really made up of two words, per and severance, right? And it's spelled the same way, but you pronounce them differently, perseverance, and then perseverance. And I had written pretty much all the songs except for the slower, moody, minor key song that's right in the middle of the album. And it would that's it. I'm going to call my album Perseverance, because the album as a whole is basically a journey through my mental psyche. Find Your Way Home is a positive song about, sometimes we have negative thoughts. You hear that all the time, right? But my answer to that is, well, if we have negative thoughts, we have positive thoughts too, right? We don't have to do things alone. We have this thought up there, or this conscience that's, hey, buddy, you can do this, right? You can walk through that door. You don't have to be all alone, is what the song says. Like, I'm there with you. So it's almost like your soul or your conscious connecting with your physical self, right? So, I mean, maybe I'm getting a little too deep there, but
Nope.
That was kind of like, hey, buddy, you can do this. Like, come on, Justin, like, you got this. And so that's what that song's about. Very positive, uplifting. Wires is the one that probably doesn't fit. It's the political song. My son Bruce does a guitar solo on that.
Well, I would say this, and that's the reason you have a collection of songs, because if you only wrote about one thing, it would be kind of boring, right?
True.
So you have a collection of songs that are about different things, but they all create a story, and that's your piece. That's your art.
For sure.
So I think it's good and it makes it more interesting, song to song, to have a different experience every time one comes on.
Yeah.
So,
No, I agree. Yeah, I mean, I guess I shouldn't say it doesn't fit, but it's just kind of out there a little bit. It's probably more experimental.
Now, talking about songs that don't fit,
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever hear the Violent J solo record, Bloody Sunday?
That wasn't his only one, right? Wasn't there one where it looks like he's coming through the door
Yeah.
of like from The Shining? Oh, that's what it's called, The Shining.
Yeah.
So I heard that one. That's the only
Okay.
solo Violent J album I've heard.
I wasn't a huge fan of that one. I wasn't a huge fan of Bloody Sunday either, but there's a song called Some Good Pussy.
Okay.
And it is the complete polar opposite of the entire record, but it's the best fucking song on there. Like, I don't remember any of the other songs.
Except for that one.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, yeah. So, I mean, you never know. I mean, especially with my song Wires, it is unique because my son is playing on
Right.
there, and I gave him zero direction. I had the rhythm, and I asked him, "You want to play guitar solo?" Of course, he's like, "Yeah." Because he does this sweeping stuff like guitarists will know. I can't do that. I'm nowhere near as technical as he is. He's only 14, so um, he put the headphones on, and like 30 minutes later, he's like, "All right, Dad, I'm done." So I went in there and I put the headphones on, and what I heard is pretty much what you hear on the album. Like, I didn't edit it except for the very end. I added a little, a little echo, but that's him. And so, yeah. But I guess to kind of continue the journey, we hit the low point in the album. Is right in the middle, right? It's the minor songs in the minor key, and it's not quite the album title because the album or the EP is titled Perseverance, but this song is called Perseverance, right? And the best way for me to describe that song is it is a chunk of my life between, I would say, 2016 and 2015 to 2017 before I met my wife. When I was going through my severance, right, my divorce, and being a single dad. I had my two boys at the time, and so there was a lot of fear. There's a lot of anger. I was angry.
I think that's something that I really like about this release is that you're really expressing a lot of that. And
I am.
it's not something that I get from you on like a day-to-day basis.
Right.
Like my interactions with you, it it felt like real genuine expression of like a darker side of your experience in life.
Yeah.
I can appreciate that.
Yeah, no, though that and I kind of want to almost. I don't think I need to make it clear, but that song in particular, it's almost tough to talk about because I have to be careful, right? Because
Sure.
it's pretty open and it's pretty out there about the subject matter I'm talking about, right? But I want to also make it clear that that is a photo frame or a picture, if you will, of that specific time period. It's not really like that anymore. But,
Right.
but I wanted to capture that because there is this image that I still literally have in my head of when I knew it was going to be over, right? It, in 2015. And I remember looking down that hallway and I've seen Bruce and Jay, my boys, in that bed. That was tough.
Yeah, dude.
And I put that in the song. I put that in the song, and I put myself out there. I'm putting myself out there now, but you guys know that was legit. That was a tough song to write. It was a tough song to sing. That was a tough song to record. But you know what? I did it. But let's kind of move on, and we get a little happier, right? Because
Sure.
that song ends on a minor note, and it was. It was there, and
A couple of things, though.
Sure, go ahead.
Regarding that.
Yeah.
I find that, and I get this kind of feedback too from other people. Some of the songs that I've written about the hardest or darkest experiences I've had in life, people end up relating to and appreciating more.
Yeah.
And but the second end of that is it may be a specific instance that inspires you to write that song, but as time goes on, it sort of detaches from that moment, the specific moment, and becomes more about life. At least for me, anyway. That's how I start to feel about it.
Okay. Yeah, I can definitely for sure relate to your first point because I was in such a unique situation. I mean, shout out to the single dads that are out there. That's usually not the case. I mean, you know
Right.
how it is. It's like usually the mom, gets the kids. I mean, that's right or wrong. That's just how it goes. So but going through that, being the single dad with two young children, and trying to be also take on that more nurturing role too, which I've always been that way with my boys. I mean, I've always had that relationship with them, and I still do to this day. But that's tough. That is super tough.
It is.
To be a dad, but also kind of have to be mom for them too.
Yeah. I remember
just,
getting criticized by the other one.
Yeah.
At one point, because that was my experience for a while. Also, as being, you have to have that balance, right?
Yeah.
You're dad, but you're doing plenty of mom shit.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I think the phrasing was something like, you're the dad, you're not the mom. Why are you worried about that in particular? I think it's because I wanted to save like some hair from her first haircut.
Yeah.
Put it in a little ponytail, put it in a bag, and write the date on it, kind of thing.
Sure. Yeah.
And I was called,
Wow.
We'll move on.
Yeah. Yeah. No. So definitely. The funny thing is that, and I should say funny, but we can. The album this EP was never supposed to be like that. Was not supposed to be what this was about. This was supposed to be a happy. I have a song called "Find Your Way Home." I have a song called "Overcome." Which is the next song on the track, which musically goes from a minor key and it ends on a modal shift. We talked about that earlier, to a major key. It ends on a super happy, D major note, and then the album finishes on a high note with Lydia and Opus, which is my personal experience with a panic attack. Is which prior to 2017, prior to this, the severance that I had, I'm gonna admit it, because there's people out there that were like me. I used to see people have panic attacks, and I'd be like, oh, they just want attention. Like, oh, they're faking, like they're whatever. Like, I used to be that guy, and I feel crappy about being that guy until it happened to me.
Yeah.
Until it happened to me, and I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? This is like a panic. So all those people that I thought were faking weren't faking. Like, this is really happening. And so Lydia and Opus it starts out, I remember the one time when I had one. And again, I'm being very open and honest on this podcast, because why not? I mean, I've got nothing to hide, and hopefully it can
It's
connect
nothing
to
be
people.
ashamed about anyway.
But I remember my parents were actually at my house, and I started to have one. And I like it cold. I think we talked about that earlier. I keep my house at 68 degrees. I love it cold. But I'm sitting in my house and I start shaking. Like, I'm cold, like I'm like this, like shaking, like I'm freezing. And of course, my wife Miranda, again, she saved me in so many ways. Being there for the kids, being there for me, everything. Shout out to Miranda, I love you, babe. But she would come, she'd put sweatpants on me, put a jacket on me, and I'm, like I said, I like it cold, and then it would pass, and now I'm hot. But that's the opening line to that song, is shaking now, cold somehow, but scientifically speaking, when your brain enters that fight or flight mode, right, from a panic attack, the blood goes from your extremities to your core to prepare you for your fight or flight.
Wow.
So that's why you get cold at your extremities. And that's what was happening to me. But at the time, right, I didn't know that. I'm like, why am I shaking? Then you start shaking, then you start freaking out even more, right? So Lydia and Opus is about that, this was my experience with a panic attack, sudden fall, but rise up strong. But you got to reach out, You have to reach out, get whatever help you need, whether that's therapy or whatever help, is for that person. And then at the end of the song, I say, now you've grown, go out and show that you've grown. Which, in this case, is this EP. This is me showing that, man, what I went through in 2015 and 2016, and more especially 2017 when the panic attack started, to where I'm at now in life. Stadium PA announcer, right? Been doing that stuff. That's super fun. Kids are all doing great in school. Lovely wife, beautiful family. I'm in an awesome freaking rock band, Holy Water Enema. Like, I've made it through that trough and I've grown as a person. And now I'm ready to show. That's why I'm being so open and honest and candid. Hopefully that I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that are surprised that I'm being this open and honest, but my hope is to maybe reach out to people and let them know that they're not alone in these things that happen. We all have trials and tribulations, but get whatever help you need, talk to whoever you need to talk to. You're not alone, and you can grow above that and be even more.
That's very noble.
So,
and that's why it's important for us, I think, to share our experiences. And that's kind of one of the whole reasons why we even do this right here. It's to just kind of put it out there, man. We're all people living in this human
experience.
Yeah. And it varies, but it's nice when you can hear somebody else kind of tell your own story once in a while.
Yeah.
And maybe their story can help you find a better path to steer yours in the right direction.
Yeah.
So that's kind of an awesome note to end this on.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's I got pretty deep, but like I said, I've got nothing to hide, and I hope that I can inspire others that have maybe gone through. I had somebody tell me, a professional tell me, and I want to add this one thing because I think this is important, that I had post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
And ignorant me was like, I wasn't in the war. I wasn't in the military. But you don't have to be in the military or in a war to have post-traumatic stress disorder. So I want to put that out there to the world. Like, you can have PTSD and not have to have been in a war.
Right.
So I wanted to make sure I added that in there.
It just takes some rough
traumatic
times,
event,
man.
Yeah. By definition.
And that trauma it can be different from person to person, because everybody's perspective on things, with what is normal to them, varies. So when something wrecks your normality, that's what it results in.
Yeah. So, I guess to wrap it up, my EP, Perseverance, is available on all streaming services. I don't know all of them, but, Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon.
If it offers music, you can probably find it there.
Yeah, you could actually even TikTok a song, I think.
Yeah, I want to see some TikTok dances to your song.
TikTok dances to my songs. That would be
some ass shaking.
Yes.
Maybe
some
even
bouncing.
What's that? A time lapse art project or something. That shit that they do.
Not sure.
What comes up in my TikTok is fart pranks and cats.
Oh.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, no. For all the cat people out there, put a video of your cat kind of playing drums to one of my songs.
That'll work.
Yeah.
Also, your guitar work is on my next single.
Yes, let's plug
Worn Leather, tentatively coming out whenever, I don't know. I'll let you know.
Yeah. No, that's I've heard it. I've seen it. Yeah. It's
Are you going to make a music video?
Oh, that's a good one. See, we're trying to wrap this up.
I can shoot it.
Well, okay. So, I'm glad you brought that up, because that was something that I wanted to, I don't know if I wanted to talk about it, but I'd like to.
Okay.
I have an idea. Here's the thing. I don't have a single,
Right.
I have ironically, and you mentioned this earlier, the song that people, strangers even, have come up to me and said that they resonate the most with is Perseverance.
Ah.
The one that we cut in deep about that, from a musical standpoint, whatever. But would I do a video for that one? I have an idea of what I would do, but I don't know. I don't have a single. I don't this is the next song or this. So the short answer is I'd love to. I thought about doing one myself for Find Your Way Home, where because I play all the instruments, so I thought about okay, just filming me playing guitar, filming me playing drums, filming me playing bass, and singing the triple harmonies and all that. But I don't know. So if you are offering to film a music video, I would absolutely love to do that.
I think it would
that
be
would
fun.
be awesome.
I don't have any ideas or anything. If you have something, we'll talk shop.
We can talk shop. Yeah. Because I was thinking about asking you, but I also know that you're very busy and you have a lot of projects. So but no, I would love to do a music video. I wouldn't know for which song yet. Hey, put in the comments below which song of mine do you want to see a music video for. There you go.
And you have to listen to the record.
Yeah.
To know which one that will be. So listen to it.
There you go. But yeah, that's awesome. Mike, thank you for having me. This has been a blast. I appreciate it.
Thank you for contributing and telling your story.
Yeah, it's a long story, but hopefully it was interesting at least.
Yeah, everybody's story's long.
Yeah.
It's just nice to hear them.
Yeah. Well, cool. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Mike.
Weather